Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer. So, Teddy, I think you have a very interesting news bit to tell us about, and I have some very interesting thoughts about it. Go right ahead.
Well, first I want to say that you're just scrolling through, and I love the random trailers that just pop up. Apparently, they're making a Jimmy Stewart biopic.
Well, Jimmy Stewart was a great man.
But here's the deal: they're focusing on his military career, he was a combat pilot.
He's a hero. He was a bona fide hero, and served his country tremendously. And I have nothing but respect for Jimmy Stewart.
I was pulling it up, like he flew 20 missions in Europe. He reached the rank of colonel. Like, he was full World War II combat pilot.
And this was in the middle of his movie career. He left the movie career to fight for America. Let that sink in. I mean, you think these selfish movie stars, self-centered, would even think of doing that? Even think of doing that today? Please. At least not the overwhelming majority. Maybe there'd be a few that are out there that actually would consider such a thing. But good grief. Talk about old Hollywood and new Hollywood. Jeez.
I will say, I would have... This is no dig against Jimmy Stewart, because it's one of those I would have wanted, if they're going to do any of the actors that served, I would love for them to do Lee Marvin. His whole story of
Lee Marvin was great too.
Where he has the craziest career, too, where he was a scout sniper, 21 amphibious assaults, horribly injured and shot up.
They could just do a series, like a mini-series of actors who were the real deal, that played tough guys, but were actually the real deal. Charles Bronson was. You had the guy from Christopher Lee. Holy crap, Christopher Lee.
Oh, yeah, Christopher Lee has one of the every time you click his wiki page.
I mean, Christopher Lee was advising on the movie and saying that's not how a knife sound when you jam it into somebody. You don't have the sound right on that. It's not how it goes. It's not what the sound the person makes. It's not the sound the knife makes. I mean, that's some pretty detailed knowledge right there.
If you're ever bored, just click on the random page on his bio, and it gets crazier and crazier. Like, witness the last guillotining.
I know. The guy's amazing. There's amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, there's always Audie Murphy, of course, who
Audie Murphy
played himself in Hell But Audie Murphy is amazing, and he would be like one of the last guys, if you looked at him, to think that he'd be the most decorated soldier of the war, but he was also amazing, and made lots of other movies too. Even though he's most famous for Hell and Back, but he did a lot of westerns and other things. He was good.
I remember one of the underrated ones. I think it was like The Duel at Silver Creek, where it's like there's moments where he's actually he plays like an anti-hero type, where he's
bastard
shooting,
frankly, a son of a bitch.
He plays
he's good. Yeah, it's not what you think of Audie Murphy, right?
Yeah, and he plays the tough dad. It's very interesting, that character, but
so really, and then he ended up dying in a plane crash because the pilot shouldn't have been flying, apparently, it's a shame that we lost him, but yeah. No, he was great, and I mean, he came from really, really humble beginnings. I mean, dirt poor, crazy beginnings there for him. And I mean, we've many of the great Hollywood greats served their country really admirably. I mean, even Scotty, from Star Trek and all, he was also a defender.
What was he in?
And
he
military. Was. I don't remember exactly his back, but he was in some tough situations, and he was known.
Well, he was a miracle worker.
There's so many of those guys, and I have a hard time trying to think of any modern actor that can maybe give that credibility to. I don't know. Can't think of any right off. Maybe there's
Unfortunately,
somebody,
I'm drawing a heavy blank because. Oh wait, no. Adam Driver. Adam Driver. I believe he's the guy that he's
Okay.
played Kylo Ren. I believe he was in the Marines or the military,
Maybe.
but he was
Oh,
he was a
interesting.
veteran. So, but
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
one thing I will say as we were reviewing these stories, I love how the attorney general has their own YouTube, and they were just like streaming alerts like announcement and Attorney General Davenport files civil complaint against Pennsylvania gun show owner for endangering public safety. So that was what came up with the ad where it was Jimmy Stewart, and then there was this. So
Right, showing
Yeah.
pretty good contrast. So Davenport has filed this complaint against the Pennsylvania gun show owner for, quote, endangering public safety. They filed because they're abusing the civil lawsuit. This is one of the anti-Second Amendment ploys of trying to, litigate the Second Amendment out of existence. And so what they've done here is they've gone after Jordan Vinrow of JSD Supply and Eagle shows. So if any of you have ever gone to the great Pennsylvania gun shows, they're really not, because first of all, there aren't any gun shows of any kind really in New Jersey. There's some military shows, but there's no gun shows. But Pennsylvania is, if you're in Jersey and you want to hit a really great normal type gun show, you go to Pennsylvania, and some of the largest, best shows are put on by this promoter.
the one that comes to mind, Bloomsburg Gun Show. I think that was the one we.
That's made, but they have a whole series of shows. I think I believe they actually do some of the largest shows in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Eastern
for that matter.
Eastern Gun Expo.
Yeah.
Eastern Gun Expo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do some of these 1,000 table, 2,000 table, these really huge shows. And what happened is they're going after him, claiming intentionally and unlawfully selling to New Jersey residents kits and parts to make ghost guns, untraceable firearms that are illegal in New Jersey. So what is this really? What this really is a pretext to go after gun shows. Okay, this isn't really about the ghost guns. That's just their vehicle. This is really about trying to stop gun shows. And so you go after gun show promoters, and this becomes the idea of civilly litigating essentially out of existence, if they can do it, they'd love to do it, gun shows. So we really have not just a violation of Second Amendment, where what's going on in Pennsylvania is completely lawful in Pennsylvania. Ghost guns are the pejorative term for simply a privately made firearm. And Americans have been making their own guns since before we were even officially a country. Okay, so private firearms are not the boogeyman, but of course they give it a boogeyman name of ghost guns and then claim they're untraceable. Well, you know what? You tell me what firearm tracing has actually done to fight crime. Virtually nothing. It's a lie that is perpetrated to give them a vehicle to make it look like they're doing something about crime, which isn't it, but more so to continue the agenda of oppression of Second Amendment rights. And here it is an attack on gun shows. That's really what's going on here. It's not, ghost guns, most guns. Ghost gun. I mean, come on. First of all, anyone can build a gun with or without parts that you buy at a show anywhere. You can build a gun with pipes that you buy at Home Depot. Are we going to go after Home Depot because you can make slam bang shotguns easily, as we taught in the Philippines to do. Americans did that. You can, I'm a American Gorilla in the Philippines, famous book, movie, etc. What do you think they make? Slam bang shotguns. You take two pieces of pipe, one pipe fits in the other. On the end cap of the larger pipe, you have a nail with the point facing down the pipe. The other one slides in it like a trombone. You put a 12 gauge shell in there and you slam it down and bang, off it goes. And it's called a slam bang shotgun, sometimes called Four Winds shotgun. And
didn't you
guy named
publish
Richardson later. Yeah, I mean this is even in the Frankfurt Arsenal, the famous black books on. They're very easy. So making a gun. They make guns in jails. Okay, they can make a gun. You can make so this whole thing about privately made firearms and all is just a load of crap. Now Jersey has banned ghost guns in a multiple ways. They talk about unserialized firearms. They talk about manufacture of firearms. They have different laws that address each of these things, all putting it under this category. And yet, under federal law, it's not a problem to make your own firearm. And federal law even has regulations for if dealers get a privately made firearm, how to handle it and be able to actually lawfully sell it. They need to then take certain steps. We don't have to get into that now. But it's not a problem under federal law. It is a New Jersey, in this case, law that they're attempting to use as a vehicle to bring the civil action against Pennsylvania, something jurisdiction in Pennsylvania, by claiming, oh, well, you're unlawfully selling to New Jersey residents. Well, I'll tell you what. How about we take a look at marijuana sales in New Jersey? Pennsylvania residents come into New Jersey and ever buy marijuana. Look, marijuana is unlawful for recreational use in Pennsylvania, and it's federally prohibited. It's still a federal controlled dangerous substance. So New Jersey acts to aid and abet and facilitate one of the largest unlawful drug distributions in the country, okay? Whereas privately made firearms are not a federal prohibition. Not a federal prohibition. Should Pennsylvania sue New Jersey because of somehow Pennsylvania residents buying weed in New Jersey being facilitated by New Jersey? I mean, this is what they're attempting to do. And yet here, not only is it not a violation of federal law, but it is really an attack on Second Amendment rights. And let me tell you that. Go ahead.
I will also point out in the article, and this is where the little trick, if anyone ever listens to these people, they always do this trick where they start with a false premise when making their argument. Ghost guns are frequently recovered at crime sites in New Jersey. And as recent reports suggest, number of ghost guns recovered in crime scenes increased 80-fold from 2019 and 2022, from 55 in 2019 to 433 in 2022. Pause right there. I wonder what happened around that time period where we had caused people to want to have their own privately made firearms and want to maybe 3D print and make their own. I wonder what little factor would have considered that. Secondly, all right, now show me the data of the amount of firearms recovered generally in crimes and give me the percentage breakdown. Oh, it's probably in the minuscule amount of percentages of firearms seized in New Jersey for crimes? Huh, I wonder, so this isn't that much of an epidemic, but can't show that, obviously, won't show that data, they just list off guns seized.
Teddy, we are in a new day and age because of President Trump, and one of the things that President Trump did is actually create, through the Justice Department, okay, they actually created in the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Justice Department the Second Amendment section. Now, let me tell you what the Second Amendment section of the Civil Rights Division of the federal government Department of Justice. Let me tell you right from their website, the Second, Fourth, and 14th Amendments, the Police Pattern or Practice Act, and Executive Order 14206, protecting the Second Amendment rights, secure the natural firearm rights of law-abiding citizens and ensure that such rights to keep and bear arms will not be infringed. The mission of the Second Amendment section is to ensure that law-abiding citizens may responsibly possess, carry, and use firearms. The Second Amendment section will work diligently to investigate law enforcement agencies that engage in a pattern or practice of infringing on law-abiding citizens' Second Amendment rights, as well as be proactive in searching for litigation opportunities to secure such rights. The Second Amendment section will also seek opportunities to advance a broad interpretation of the Second Amendment via statements of interest, motions to intervene, amicus briefs, and original lawsuits where applicable on behalf of Americans across the country. All attorneys within the Second Amendment section will advocate with zeal on behalf of the United States of America in furtherance of all objectives as tasked. And there, right at the website, at the Civil Rights Division, U.S. Department of Justice, the Second Amendment section, you can go right online to that. We'll have a link in the transcript. It says, Section Information, Acting Chief Barry Arrington, report a civil rights violation. So, listeners, if you see or hear or know of any civil rights violations on the Second Amendment, report them. Report them to the Federal Department of Justice. And I think this is something that the DOJ should consider going on in New Jersey, where you actually are seeing an effort to go after gun shows, which is our freedom of association, which is our ability. If you can't buy guns, then you're not going to be able to possess and carry something you cannot obtain. Second, ghost guns are not a violation of federal law. Third, this is talking about interstate issues. This is Jersey and Pennsylvania. What could be more squarely within federal jurisdiction than one state going after activities in another state because the state that is going after them has laws that infringe on the Second Amendment and trying to enforce it in another jurisdiction via this mechanism of being able to abuse civil laws. So there is potentially a solution here, and that is, and not only just about what New Jersey is doing here, but what New Jersey does across the board in so many ways of oppressing our Second Amendment rights. Now, this Second Amendment section has done a number of things already. They sued California to halt the Glock ban. They sued Virginia over the under their unconstitutional weapons ban, assault firearms so-called ban. They sued they opened an investigation, by the way, into Philadelphia Police Department's unconstitutional permit revocation process. They've sued Colorado for their ban on so-called assault firearms and magazines. They sued the District of Columbia for their ban. And they've gone after the Virgin Islands Police Department for unconstitutional practices in effective denials of permits. That's just a sampling of what the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Justice Department is doing in the Second Amendment section. And it's time for New Jersey to be investigated, because this has gone on for far too long in New Jersey. Our Second Amendment rights being trampled, for New Jersey trying to do everything in its power to oppress Second Amendment rights. So check it out, folks, and you will see that this is what happens when we say elections have consequences, because this goes back to to President Trump putting out his executive order, and you also have the Attorney General putting forward that they have their Second Amendment task force and setting up the Civil Rights Division. So we can change how business is done, because prior to this, the government, even the federal government, took at best a neutral position, but normally there was no infringement that was too much as far as federal enforcement. No problem. Turned the other, turned away from it. Couldn't care less. Those are no longer the days today, and this is where a wake-up call needs to come out on our Second Amendment rights. Let me tell you. Go ahead, Teddy. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I was able to pull up Everytown's research. 2023, New Jersey's law enforcement seized 4,619 guns. So going off of the data that the AG put out, that's 9% of those firearms were quote unquote ghost guns. 9 per, it's even less from those numbers. It is the level of insanity that these individuals pull, where they're just making a boogeyman out of something. That's why
it's a boogeyman and a pretext to try to assert their agenda. It's really what we're talking about here. Absolutely. Well, let me tell you about our good friends at We Shoot. We Shoot is an indoor range in Lakewood where Teddy and I both shoot. We love We Shoot, and so will you. They have the top trainers for Jersey. They have the full array from novice to advanced. They have some just great training programs, and you can get your CCARE certification there. That's what you need in order to get your Jersey carry. They offer CCARE courses. They also offer ability to get non-resident permits in other states. So if you travel, you can take care of that through We Shoot. We Shoot is a resource. It's a resource that we're very lucky to have, because it's harder and harder to find places to shoot. And without places to shoot, you can't do too much with your guns. And We Shoot is there for you. Take advantage of it. It's a wonderful place. They got a great pro shop, great people, super nice, wonderful folks. They will bend over backwards to help you. And I've seen it firsthand, and they've helped so many people to improve their skills, to learn about firearms, to learn the right way, proper way, how to be safe, how to be secure. Make sure that everything is done correctly and that you don't end up being a GoFu. So check out WeShootUSA.com. That's their website, WeShootUSA.com. You'll be glad you did. They have beautiful photography. They're really first rate, and you'll see why. They go the extra mile. Check out We Shoot at WeShootUSA.com. They're conveniently located right in Lakewood, New Jersey. Easily accessible right off the Garden State Parkway, right? You can do it. Go over there and you'll say, wow, why didn't I come here sooner? That's We Shoot. And let me also shamelessly promote my book, New Jersey Gun Law. It is the Bible of Jersey gun law. You don't want to be a GoFu. You need the book. It's 120 topics, all question and answer. It'll help guide you safely through this matrix of insanity called New Jersey gun law, so that you can remain a law-abiding gun law. That's my purpose in writing it, and you will see why it is the the book used by lawyers, judges, state police, firearms division, and beyond. Anybody who wants to know about Jersey gun law, they always turn to New Jersey Gun Law by Evan Nappen. And if you want to get your copy, go to evannappen.com. Evannappen.com. Order a copy. You'll have it within days. So, Teddy, what else do you have for us to discuss today? I'm going to toss the ball to you.
Well, as you know, press checks are always free. And if anyone's been watching the news or anything, or seen all the push from the left, the thing they keep trying to go back to is they're trying to address the mail problem, shall we? That's their actual quote from the election groups that they do, where they're trying to figure out how do we get
office mail, or as in what is a woman mail?
The white men, particularly of the group that they've completely spurred off. And one of the things that they've run into afoul is you see this whole push where they try to reach issues, and they've gotten very, very quiet on the issue of firearms all of a sudden. Amazing,
really?
Right? And even though where you have like the James Tallarico who's still trying to tote gun control, but trying to paint it off like, look, I'm for the Second Amendment. I own a gun. All this.
It's the I'm for a Second Amendment, but it's always with the but
always.
But we should ban guns. I'm for the Second Amendment, but we should ban guns.
But universal background check, which will basically create a registry.
We should eliminate gun shows off the face of the planet. But we should ban any gun that's over 12 inches long and call it an assault firearm, and ban any gun under 12 inches and call it a Saturday night special. Other than that, I'm for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. And you've been seeing that. Now, you've noticed they've been losing a lot of ground to their quote-unquote Democrat socialists. They're just Marxists. If you look at the ideology of what they support, they are Marxists. Just go one-to-one. They are the same. They can't dress it up anyway. So I decided, you know what? Let's see what's on their page, of what they actually feel about the Second Amendment, because when it comes to socialists now, they've kind of reached they don't know how to feel about firearms, because they want to disarm the people because they believe in gun control, but they need arms for the revolution, always. So it's the gun owner dilemma for socialists. So I go to their webpage, and what do I find? This goes back to 2018, mind you, so now they've gotten very quiet. The Second Amendment is a threat to us all. That is the opening title, and they still have it on there. And this is their reaction to the Parkland shooting. And so America touts itself as being a meritocracy, and we laugh. But on firearm policy, it is truly need blind. No matter your age, race, gender, creed, or sexual orientation, your inalienable right to life is perfectly alienable to keep guns pouring into public and private lives. Okay, and which is why we think the only way to guarantee that we dramatically reduce the acts of violence involving guns is removing guns from society. Pause. Logical fallacy alert, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. Logical fallacy, reverse nirvana. If we got rid of all the guns, that would stop the crime. They always try to push that. And we have the oomph. Repeal the Second Amendment. That's going to happen. This is 2018. Nope, still haven't done it. And they point to, I don't know if you remember this guy, Karl Rove.
Karl Rove, who the pool shooter. Shooting at the pool. Yeah. After he's anti-gun, but he uses a gun inappropriately even. Yeah, that guy. Mr. Hypocrite.
Well, they highlight his quote, the only way to guarantee that we drastically reduce acts of violence involving guns is to basically remove them from society. Well, Okay, then. And then they go through this whole like twisted history where they point to the 1970s. NRA stopped being an enthusiast group and became a defense industry lobby. And then the new blood came with the gun control of 68, which aimed to restrict firearm ownership in response to the fears of the group. I love how they say the fears of the Black Panthers. Yes, that's why the 68 Gun Control Act was born. That was the only reason they wanted to disarm the Black Panthers. No other reason of why they tried to push the 68 Gun Control Act. Dad, do you remember that? What would you say from your view of what was the driver to the 68 Gun Control Act?
Oh my God. You know, these people are just amazing. And as you see, they're conflicted over their own platform. So it's crazy, Teddy.
Yeah, and well, they go even crazier. So they go through this twisted history of rights where they go through Heller, basically determining like, the rights infringed, and they use Scalia's answer where in Scalia's admission, if we repeal the Second Amendment, private citizens could still own guns. The right to do so is granted to them by God or the English, whatever you'd like. Both Brett Stevens and Karl Rover certainly wouldn't mind. So therefore, we've rewritten the Second Amendment. They wrote an amendment. God. They actually wrote their example, the 28th Amendment. Dad, here we go. The 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that they push for. The second article of the Amendment of the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Okay, that gets to that. 2, manufacturing, transportation, and importation into or out of any state, territory, or possession of the United States, delivery therein of a pump-action, semi-automatic, or automatic firearms is hereby prohibited. 3, article shall be inoperative unless it shall be ratified as the amendment to the Constitution by convention of several states, as provided by the Constitution within 10 years, the date of submission hereof to the state by Congress. Well, they want a con apparently, but just going back to that, banning pump action, semi-automatic, and automatic firearms, removing that from the Second Amendment, Dad. Okay, you can have your gun, but they must be manually loaded.
Couple things. Number one, the Second Amendment is not our rights, it's a guarantee of our rights. The rights too exist whether or not we have a Second Amendment, but the Second Amendment is a guarantee against the government of infringing on those rights. So what they're saying is we want to revoke the guarantee of your rights and replace it with a lame-ass guarantee that we're rewriting that won't do anything except give us the opportunity to walk all over your rights. Okay, so that's really what they're saying. But the really interesting thing here is this proposal to repeal the Second Amendment is all the anti-Second Amendment gun rights oppressor folks are going to have left. Because we are on the path with the Second Amendment having been empowered by Heller, McDonald, and Bruen. And now we have Viramontes and Grant that are, in my opinion, are going to absolutely crush assault firearms, semi-automatic bans across the country, and they are losing ground left and right. And there are over 3,000 filed legal actions challenging gun laws. They are on the run, and they're losing, and they know it. The only thing they have left is actually what they're asking for here, and that is to repeal the Second Amendment, and we will never let them repeal the guarantee of our rights. And that's what we must insist upon. These are our rights, they're guaranteed, and we want that guarantee enforced. And now that they see the guarantee is finally being enforced, they cannot stand it. And they are losing, and they're going to continue to lose.
I will say I love the ending to the article where the individual, We are aware non-white and marginalized groups whose rights are routinely violated by the police may view this both as restricting and their ability to protect themselves or causing unwarranted searches and harassments for the criminal justice. We in no way support any measure that would increase the scope and scale of police violence. This provision outlined in amendment would have universal application. So, in other words, don't worry.
Right.
This affects everybody. There's going to be no racial discriminations about enforcing these laws, Dad.
Right.
Cut to, what was it? Was it John Petrolino's article where he pulled the data?
Exactly what we're dealing with in Jersey, where their blacks are already more than 2-to-1 discriminated against in just permit issuance. So, yeah, we know where this is. It's just an absurd.
They literally go with the "trust me, bro." It'll be we're not racist. We're just gonna ruin. We're gonna screw it over for everybody.
But keep in mind, this is laughable right now, but it's actually not. This is going to be the push that we're going to see. It's going to be major push, repeal the Second Amendment, because it's all they have left. And that's what we're going to see. And that and abusing the tort system in any way they can, civil action, to somehow create these abilities for trying to litigate guns out of existence. That and repealing the Second Amendment, and that's what they're left on their game plan. And we just need to remain vigilant. So
bear in mind,
Teddy,
I will say, bear in mind, they still push for red flag in the other articles they've had. They still push for going like all the required measures where you have to get everything registered, and they still for removing ARs and anything they deem unsafe or scary.
Well,
so
I hear you, and this is so typical, but we're winning. That's what's important. We're winning, except when there's GoFus, and GoFus, as you know, are gun owner F-ups, and that's where gun owners make big mistakes that cost them, technically, could cost them their career, their family, their fortunes, their freedom. It's bad news. So you want to not be a GoFu. And what we like to do here is talk about GoFus so that you don't become one. You get to learn for free what others have paid dearly for. Teddy, what do you think the GoFu is this week? What are we talking about?
Well, for me, the GoFus are always about stop talking to the police.
Oh, my God, stop talking to the police. We talk about basics. It is so basic. Shut up. You have a right to remain silent. Now, whether or not you have the ability to, I guess becomes another question. But you have the right, and you need to stand on your right. You need to ask your attorney and remain silent, okay? You need to stand on your rights. And over again, we see clients that blow that and end up making their situation incredibly worse. Because it's not only anything you say can and will be used against you, anything you say will be twisted against you, okay? The safest, best route every time is standing on your rights, okay? It's that simple. And let me tell you, folks, if you're ever read Miranda rights, oh my God, shut the F up. If you're read Miranda rights, sirens should be going off, fireworks should be shooting, flags should be waving. Shut up! Anyone who talks after Miranda, I just can't even understand. They're warning you, they're telling you, oh, you just wave it. Oh, you'll just talk to them. What are those silly rights they're telling me about? I'll tell you one of the problems is that television has conditioned many Americans to giving up their rights. Oh, I'll just talk to them. I'll just explain it. I'll just yak away. And you know what? You end up burying yourself. Over and over and over again, I see it. I cannot believe it. If you are ever across one of those metal tables being interrogated by police and you're talking, you are the world's biggest gofoo. Okay? That should never happen. You've been read Miranda, that talking across that table, that should not be happening. You let that happen, you're a fool. You are absolutely a fool. I can't make it any clearer. It reminds me of Jan Davis, who, I don't know if you know about Jan. She decided it was part of a movement to allow the ability, to try to legalize base jumping at national parks, at Yosemite, and she jumped off of El Capitan. Now, she was a pretty experienced jumper, and she did this as a protest, and she was wearing criminal stripes outfit, the classic black and white stripes of the classic, prison outfit, right? And it's to make a statement, of course, but it's really a statement here because she jumped off this El Capitan, and it was in 1999 as a protest against the ban, trying to make a statement that this is safe and should be allowed, and she jumped and ended up going splat. That's right, parachute, didn't open it, couldn't get it opened. Unfortunately, my understanding is she had used some other equipment instead of her own, didn't know where the pull was on this particular thing, and unfortunately ended up just going splat. But to me, Jan Davis jumping off El Capitan there is what happens when you are read Miranda and talk. You end up in a big splat like Jan, that's what you do, okay? And keep in mind, she was wearing that prisoner outfit when it happened. So, folks, stand on your rights. Don't be a gofoo. Don't end up splattering yourself on the gun rights oppression and insane matrix of Jersey gun laws, should you ever be put in that situation. This is Evan Nappen and Teddy Nappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult a licensed attorney in your state.